Hello, and today we get to learn how to make a rocket animation in Photoshop. First, there are two files that you need to grab from Wolbert's web. The background will be outer space, so open that in Photoshop, please. I'm going to do that right now from my folder. And so there's the background, hitting Control 0. Now I want to open the rocket as well. So I'm going to also just tell it to open with Photoshop. Okay, now let's just zoom in on this rocket first. Hit Control 0 to enlarge. Let's get rid of the background in terms of the white. So I am going to decide to use an eraser, but not just any old eraser. I'm choosing the magic eraser that erases by color. So I'm going to click, 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 click till I get the checkerboard. That means it's invisible. And then I'm going to pull down the JPEG from the title bar there and then get my move tool. Just grab a hold of that rocket and drop it right in to my background layer. Close the rocket without saving. No need to save. Now, please make sure that your rulers are open because that will help when you're trying to move your rocket and adjust it. To do that, you just say View Rulers. Okay, now I need my rocket to kind of go down a bit, but before I do that, I want to make sure I remember where it is and what layer it's on. So I always am going to name my layer. So go over to your layer and name it Rocket. Okay, so now that we got our rocket in place, we actually need to move it straight down, keep it with that little purple line if you can that comes up until the very, oh, I knew I was going to do that. I was trying to move it too fast. If you try to move it too fast, it'll say, I'm not doing it. Okay, so I got it just out of view, and that's what you need to do. Okay, next. Let's get some text on the board. So we're going to go over to our text tool. Now this is going to be huge. I want you to choose something that's going to be a fun text. Maybe I'll choose, oh, I don't know, whatever this is. What does it say? The Source Sans Pro Black. Fine. You can choose whatever you want. Now I want to make this about 500 pixels, so I'm going to go backwards on that and just choose 500 because I want it to be really, really big. And for the color. Now I see that there's some different colors in the background that I could choose if I wanted. And remember, you can always just point. If I wanted a blue, I could just click over here and find a different color blue that might match. And then remember though, we have to stay within gamut. So if you see the triangle come up, click it, and then there's my color that the numbers would be. Just a little bit brighter. Okay, there we go. Say okay. Now, we need to just make sure that this is going to go on its own layers, but it will because it's text. So the minute we click in, notice the layer comes up, and we need this to say 3. Because it's going to be 3, 2, 1, blast off. Now I could go up to my move tool to move this and put it in the middle, or I could hold control like I'm going to do and just move it, holding down control to the approximate center. Okay, so I click over here on layer 1 and it shows you it's the 3. Well, I'm going to duplicate that layer with a right click, duplicate layer rather, and make this a 2. Say okay. Now the first thing I need to do is I'm going to take out of view the show hide view. I'm going to punch the eye out of the layer that has the 3 in it. There you go. Now I have to make sure I'm clicked on the 2 layer. I'm going to go to the T that's in the little box and double click it, and it reselects the text. Now I'm going to make that a 2, and then once I click off, it's set. Okay, now let's do the 1. Right click, duplicate the layer. You're going to just put a 1 in its place. Say OK. Make sure you get rid of the 2 layer. Punch the eye out. Double click the T by the 1. Select the text. and make it a 1. Okay, now we have one last bit of text to do. So let's click off that 1. Right click, duplicate again. We need blast off. So blast off and say OK. Now, in order for the blast off to show up, we're going to punch the eye out of the 1 layer, and we're going to double click the T by the blast off. This probably will have to go all the way down to about 200, maybe. Maybe 300. Let's try 300. Okay, now I'm going to type blast off. All right, again, I can hold down Control and move it to the approximate center. Okay, so I have 3, 2, 1, blast off. I'm going to go ahead and go up to the check mark this time and commit it. All right, now is time to put each of these items into some folders. So we have the garbage can, we have the new layer, and then that is the grouping to create a folder. Click once and call that grouping text. Click again and make another folder and call this one, how about that, images, that's better. Okay, so now we're going to take and we're going to select all of the text. So I'm going to click on blast off, hold down Control, and select all the text, and then just simply move it into the text layer. Now to show you that they're actually in the text layer, I'm going to click on text, right click, and I'd like to say, okay, all my text is going to be colored yellow. There. So you can tell it's all in one folder together. And you can either turn on the items or turn them off. Okay? For now, I'm going to turn them all off. Now, I'm going to move the images layer beneath the text, then close the text. Now, let's go ahead and click on the rocket in the background and drop that into the images. Oh, gee, what could be wrong? Well, I didn't unlock my background. Now let's try it. Click on the rocket, double click and call your background. So we just renamed it. So now if we select both of them and drag it into images, works like a charm. Just to show you, let's make that a color. All right, we're going to say all of our images are orange. Okay, so we have our yellow text and our orange images. All right, now let's start to make an animation out of this. We got our rocket, we got our text, we should be ready to go. Go up to the right-hand corner to choose the new workspace. We would like, instead of essentials, to be motion. And I notice here my history button opens, so I'm going to close that. Go down to where it says Open Frame Animation. Click the down arrow and notice you might have Create Video Timeline, right? Or create the frame animation. Choose Frame Animation. Now click. And you can see that we are ready to do step by step different frames in order to make this actually move. Now let's explore first this bottom options bar, which is indeed our timeline bar. So if we click the far left, it says to convert to a timeline versus, there we go, converting back to frames. Let's stay at frames. Okay, we will be able to loop our animation eventually, and I am going to have you loop it when we're all done. And then these are just controls to control your movie. So this is the play, reverse buttons. There is the next button that actually is a tween. And then this one says duplicate your layer that you're currently on and is showing, and then the garbage can for the frame. Now, we're going to be making some frames, but the first thing we want to do, we're going to have to do the 3, 2, 1 countdown. So let's start with 3 and show the eye. Okay, so only the 3 is showing. Notice that's what shows in your frame 1. Now go over and hit the duplicate frame button. Click once. They both have 3. We don't want that to occur. For this frame, the second one, Click off the 3, click on the 2. So now we have 3, 2. Now go ahead and duplicate the frame again. I'm sure you can guess what we have to do. Punch the I out of the 2. Now we choose 1. Now let's go ahead and duplicate the frame again. Instead of 1, we're going to turn it off. Turn on blast off. Okay, so we have 3, 2, 1, and then blast off. Now let's go ahead and make a new frame. Okay, we don't want any text on this one. And then we're going to close this text area and we're going to open the images. Now the whole time we have the background in play, which we want. But now it is very much time for us to use this rocket. If we're going to be blasting off on the rocket, let's kind of just show, let's nudge up. I'm going to use my clicking on the rocket layer. Okay, that's where I'm going to be starting, is right in frame 5. Let's be on the move tool, and what you're going to do is nudge the rocket up, and you want to move it up a little bit. Move that rocket up. There it goes. Just a little bit, but not too much, just like that, just so the tip of it shows. Now we again are going to duplicate the frame, and this time we want this rocket to be out of the atmosphere. Okay. Oh, I'm off track. Keep going. All right, I'm going to hit Control 0 again to make sure I'm doing it right. And then keep going. Keep going. You got to nudge it all the way up, all the way up, all the way up till it's gone. Okay? Now what we're going to do, because frame 5 was all the way at the bottom, frame 6 is all the way at the top. We want the rocket to tween, to jump, to move on its own, straight up into the sky. So let's click on our 6th frame, and go over to the tween button. Click it, and yes, we want the previous frame, and let's tween it. Actually, 8 does sound good. 8 frames. We're going to keep all layers and the position, opacity, and effects selected. Say OK. Boom, there we go. Now you notice that the rocket starts to go up. But before we watch this, look at how many seconds it has the 3, 2, 1 on. We want it to be only like 1 second. So 1 second for the 3, 1 second for the 2, 1 second clicking the down arrow here for the 1, and then 1 second for the blast off. Now, the next is, though, all about the rocket. So let's click on the 5th frame and then hold down Shift and click on the 14th frame. Select them all at once. Now let's change the seconds to 0. So we have to say other and just say 0. Type in 0 and say OK. All right, now it's time to test this. So let's click on frame 1. See the little play button? Let's go. 3, 2, 1, blast off. And there we go. Now we want to save this into the correct format that we could actually put it onto, let's say, a website, or share it, or email it and have it move, or do anything with it. So first thing we want to do is I want to loop it so that it goes twice. So I'm going to go to the once, click it down, and say other, and change it to 2 so that it plays twice. Say OK. Now I need to save this as a Photoshop file. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and collapse my images, and then I'm going to do File, Save As. Okay, I want to just save this as Rocket Animation. And notice where I am. I'm inside of my Photoshop folder, inside my Rocket Animation, inside 2017. And I'm saved this PSD with the layers as rocket animation. Save. Okay, now if I just said file save as right now for my GIF, it would never move. In order to get it to move, I have to say file, export, save for the web. Then I change it from whatever format it was before, if it's JPEG, PNG, whatever, to a GIF. We just keep this GIF 64 dithered at the highest level. If you don't have that, you can go down and choose it. And then we're going to click Save. We're going to go back into the folder where we were before. So I'm in Animation Digital Imaging. I'm in Photoshop. I'm in my Rocket Animation. And I'm going to go ahead and just save it as Rocket Animation because I already had GIF selected. Save. Let it save all the way. Excellent. Now let's minimize and make sure it worked. I'm going into my folder now where I see my original JPEG documents. I see my GIF animation and I see my Photoshop document I just saved. So let me go to the GIF animation of the rocket and find out what happens when I double click it. Should open in a browser. 3, 2, 1, blast off. 3, 2, 1, blast off. There we go. And it looped twice. So success. And that is how we create a rocket animation. Thank you so much. Hopefully you had fun with this.